Good afternoon. Welcome to our presentation titled COVID-19, Vaccine Brand Sentiment on Twitter. My name is Alina Campan, and I am presenting this work with one of my co-authors, Traian Marius-Struta. We are both in the School of Computing and Analytics at Northern Kentucky University. This is the outline of our talk. Due to the time limitation, we will provide only a general overview, and we recommend that you read the entire paper. Online social networks, OSNs, are today a primary way to spread and consume information. An important aspect of OSNs is that they are open, which means that users can post anything, of course, within certain boundaries established by the provider. This will lead to a proliferation of information with different degrees of truthfulness, with intentional or unintentional disinformation purposes. Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook are some of the most used social networks. For our work, we used data collected from Twitter, since Twitter allows via provide APIs to collect in real time tweets that are a match for a set of given keywords. Vaccination hesitancy is not a new phenomenon by any means. It manifested even before 2020. It is contributed by active groups that spread misinformation and or disinformation. For example, by exaggerating the number of occurrences of side effects of the existing vaccines. Of course, vaccination hesitancy remained a significant issue in stopping the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Existing feed algorithms on OSNs choose relevant opinions to display to the users based on popularity. These popular opinions are usually extreme, and by being shared, they are further emphasized. And this, in the end, will be leading to more division of opinions. So users do not really see or get a real feel of what's going on in the OSN. They will have a biased view of the information. Our goal in this work was to analyze the spreading of information in Twitter, volume-wise and sentiment-wise, positive or negative, for COVID-19 vaccines overall and for some specific COVID-19 vaccine brands. So our contributions include in this work, we collected tweets with vaccination and COVID-19 related keywords for 4 periods of 10 days each from winter to fall 2021. We analyzed the popularity based on the count and public sentiment of COVID-19 vaccination tweets overall, and with focus on individual vaccine brands. To our knowledge, this is the first study that makes this comparison between existing COVID-19 vaccine brands. We also identified the most popular individual tweets during the analyzed time windows, and we analyzed these tweets with respect to the overall retweets count, so how much they were respread in the network, retweets count over time, so a timeline of the tweets, and sentiment polarity. This figure shows our workflow from data collection to summarization and sentiment analysis. All the work was implemented in Python, and we used, among others, the TWIPY, NumPy, Pandas, and RE libraries. I just want to add a couple notes regarding the specifics of collection and analysis. With respect to tweet collection, we leveraged Twitter free streaming API with filtering and the TWIPY library to collect the tweets from the Twitter live stream for our 4-day, 10-day time windows or periods ranging from February to October of 2021. Regarding the Twitter sentiment analysis, or TSA, we used Vader, which the documentation of the product advertises as being a lexicon and rule-based sentiment analysis tool that is specifically attuned to sentiments expressed in social media.
Hello, everybody. As Alina introduced me, I am Mario Struzza, and I will be presenting the results part of this paper. In these figures, we show the volume of tweets for all 4 10-day windows. We notice that the total tweet count was higher during the first 2 10-day periods we investigated, and then dropped by approximately 30% in the last 2 periods. There is a correlation between the number of tweets we collected and the total number of COVID-19 cases reported worldwide, in particular for the last 3 periods. During the first 10-day period, the number of tweets was relatively high compared to the number of cases. However, this could be explained by the novelty of the vaccines and the fact that most developed countries were still in the early stages of their vaccination campaign. Each period has significant peaks in terms of magnitude. There are just 5 peaks that reach more than 7.5 thousand tweets in a 30 minutes period, and those are shown with green. We identified possible explanations for each of these peaks. For example, in the first peak, labeled CP1, this is due to the tweet of the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, in which he announces that he took the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. The other peaks, except for one, were produced in proportion of 35% or more by retweets of similar messages by users with high follower counts of over 1 million followers. The exception is peak CP3, for which the dominant tweet originates from a user with a relatively small number of followers, 20.6 thousand. In addition, the retweet count for the most retweeted tweet is only 16%. So it looks like most volume peaks are contributed by messages from users with high follower counts. In these figures, we show the average sentiment for all 4 10-day windows. The overall sentiment is more positive on average in the first analyzed period than in the next 3. One possible explanation is that during that time, February 27, March 8, 2021, vaccines were still in short supply, but becoming more and more available. There were many positive messages that advertised the increased availability of vaccines, and people were hopeful that vaccines would have a decisive impact on the course of the pandemic. For all other periods, the vaccine availability was universal in developed countries that have a large Twitter presence, and focus shifted to vaccine hesitancy and convincing people to vaccinate. It is worth noting that all 10 days from the first period had the average daily tweet sentiment positive, while this number dropped to 6 for the second period, 5 for the third, and 4 for the last 10-day period. All remaining days had a neutral sentiment polarity on average. At a more micro level, the number of 30 minutes windows with negative sentiment also increased from only 5 in the first period to over 30 in the last period. We noticed that the interest for individual COVID-19 vaccine brands varied significantly between the 4 periods. The Pfizer vaccine is, as reflected by the tweet volume, more popular than each of the other vaccines in all of such periods except the first. More significantly, the percentage of tweets that match Pfizer keywords out of all tweets that contain any of the 8 vaccine brand keywords per time period is generally growing, 26%, 46%, 35%, and 63%. The popularity of AstraZeneca vaccine follows an opposite trend to Pfizer's. While during the first period it had more mentions than any other brand, its importance decreased later, and in the last 3 periods it was only the 3rd most popular vaccine brand. Moderna is the 2nd or 3rd most popular vaccine throughout the time, with the exception of the 3rd period when Sinovac reached its peak and took this spot. Three vaccines, Sinovac, Sputnik, and Covaxin, had similar popularity trends with alternating popularity count. In the last period, their popularity has declined significantly. Somewhat surprising, since the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was approved in USA, this brand has a very low number of tweets throughout the entire observed time, and its popularity was decreasing continuously. Lastly, the vaccine from Novavax also had low popularity during all 4 periods. The sentiment of brand-specific tweets is harder to interpret. There are wide variations between periods, and it is likely that the overall sentiment was influenced by tweets with relatively high count in that corresponding period. In these figures, we show the popularity trend of top 10 the most frequent tweets. The positive tweets are illustrated with green. The negative tweets are shown in red, and neutral tweets are in blue. We notice that the top tweet's popularity often peaks fast after the tweet is created, and then it decreases at a slower rate until it dies down. This kind of tweet timeline features an initial maximum volume peak very soon after the tweet's creation time within the first hour or so, and is common in the top 10 tweets shown in the figure. Half of the 20 tweets have this profile. This profile is also usually associated with the author of the tweet being a user with many followers. By visual inspection of the tweet timelines, we see that most of tweets in this group, 7 out of 10 followers, numbers highlighted in yellow, were authored by a user with more than 1 million followers, while fewer of those tweets, only 3 out of 10 followers, number highlighted in green, were authored by a user with less than 1 million followers. There are, however, tweets authored by users with low follower count that become very popular. Such tweets usually reach their peak a few hours after creation, usually when repeated by more influential, with more followers individuals. In addition, the popular tweets authored by less popular users seem to keep their popularity longer, and in some cases more than a day. Here are some conclusions. The volume of all COVID-19 vaccine-related tweets decreased from the first half of 2021 into the second half of the year. The overall sentiment polarity was more positive in the first time period and decreased over time. The volume of brand-specific tweets is also decreasing. Pfizer is the most talked about COVID-19 vaccine brand on Twitter, and it was increasing its percentage of overall brand matching tweets. AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson percentages decreased at the same time. Moderna, while decreasing in the overall count, kept its popularity within brand-related tweets. No differences in terms of trending patterns between tweets with positive and negative polarity, and the trend is influenced by the popularity, number of followers of the tweet author, and of individuals that retweet the tweet. This concludes our presentation. We hope you enjoy it, and please ask us any questions you might have about this work. Enjoy the workshop.